Hello friend. How are you doing today? My name is Mary. This is Happilyeveresch, and today I want to share with you my Friday reads. I finished one book so far this month. I didn't love it, and it kind of has put me into a little bit of a slump, or rather I should say it was hard for me to want to read because I knew I needed to finish this book, and I would put it off and put it off. So I was slumpy while I was reading this book just because I didn't connect with it super well, which is so sad because the themes were so great and I thought that it was going to be a book for me, but it just ended up not being that, and that is The Kindest Lie by Nancy Johnson. This book is about Ruth and her family. Ruth grew up in a small-ish town in Indiana. There's lots of family secrets wrapped up in this town. She has since moved away, been married, is very successful in her job, but she ends up going back to Indiana to try to uncover some of these family secrets. This is set in 2008. Obama has just won the presidency. The political atmosphere is definitely a big part of this story. It also explores poverty, socioeconomic status, race, how those kind of all play together. So I will say I do think that this book had some interesting themes to explore, but for me, this lacked depth. This lacked really digging into some of those themes, and I think it's because there's so much in this book. I was reading another review and it said that this book felt very cluttered, and I felt like that was a good way to kind of explain how my experience with the book. It felt like it was trying to do a lot. There were all of these strings, but then they would just be left floating, and it's not even that I need it to be tied up or anything, but just these strings of exploration that were just never fully explored, and so yeah, it just felt like it kind of lacked some of that depth that I was wanting when we're exploring some of these topics. I wrote, as I was kind of taking notes about my feelings, I felt like it was a good idea, but it just the execution was lacking for me. So I didn't really connect with the writing. I found it to be confusing at times. I never felt like we had a good sense of time and place. I never kind of knew where we were or what we were doing, which made it very confusing for me as a reader. There's also moments of beautiful writing. There are lines that I underlined that I felt like were some good metaphors, but too often I felt like the sentences and the paragraphs could have been edited way down. There was a lot of telling, and I'm like, I get it. I get what you're saying. I didn't need a lot of this extra. And so yeah, I felt like there was a lot of telling, but then there wasn't a lot of showing. And so yeah, it just left for a very jarring reading experience for me. I didn't really connect with the book's writing style. And for me, the characters were a little flat, a little one-dimensional. I had a hard time connecting with any of them, and they do some unlikable things, and I don't mind an unlikable character, but it just felt like there was no rhyme or reason. I could never fully grasp a character's thoughts, emotions, feelings, and so nothing anyone did made sense because I didn't have a good grasp of who the characters were, and every decision just kind of seemed to come out of nowhere, and every thought, it's just what, it didn't match up with anything that we knew previously about the character. So it was really hard for me to connect, and then it was really hard for me to have empathy with the characters then because I didn't have connection. I didn't understand why they were doing the things that they were doing, or if I did understand, then they would make a decision that felt totally out of left field. I couldn't reconcile their decisions with who I felt like the author was trying to create them to be, and so yeah, they just felt very discongruent and flat. Then I also felt like the plot, while it had potential and it had some interesting points, I did want to know what was going to happen, it also felt a little too cluttered for me. Again, I had a hard time orienting myself where we were at. We were just supposed to be visiting this town in Indiana for a couple weeks, but the way that it was written, it was you could have been here for 2 years. Yeah, it was hard to understand time that was passing, and it was hard to follow in a lot of ways. So yeah, unfortunately, I didn't love it. I thought that I was going to love it, but it ended up just not being a book for me, and it's a shame because, like I said, there were some important themes in here. So I ended up only giving it like 2 stars. And I probably will be getting rid of this and not keeping it on my shelf just because I didn't love it, and I hope that someone else can find it and maybe really get something out of it. Unfortunately for me, it just didn't hit me right, and that's okay. Not every book is going to. So what do I plan to read next? So I just started a middle grade novel, which I'm very excited to read, and it's called Some Places, More Than Others by Renee Watson. This, like I said, is a middle grade story, and I was a little confused in my TBR. So this is about a young girl. She's almost 12 years old, who lives with her mother and her father in Oregon, and she is begging to go visit her father's family in New York City. It's about her kind of discovering more about her father's family, and discovering, then more about herself, kind of slice of life, middle grade, coming of age story. We love that in some middle grade. And I have read Renee Watson's YA novel, Piecing Me Together. Yeah, Piecing Me Together, and I really loved it. It was one of the best YA novels I've read in the last couple years, and I'm really excited to kind of experience her middle grade, and I'm already really enjoying the story. Very easy to get sucked into. I am definitely looking forward to finishing this one maybe tonight. We'll see. It is middle grade and it is a pretty short read, so I think that I could probably finish it up and maybe like feel really accomplished. And then I also plan to pick up some short stories as well, just to kind of sprinkle in and give some variety in my reading. So I probably won't finish this weekend, but definitely want to work on it over April. And that's Catherine Mansfield, The Garden Party and Other Stories. I'm excited to give this a go and see what Miss Catherine Mansfield does with the short story. This was written in the beginning of the 1900s, so it's a modern classic, some turn of the century literature, so I'm excited to, give this a go. And I love the cover. I think it's stunning. And there's, I don't know how many, look at the papers, just so lovely. Let's see how many stories. Quite a few. So 15 stories, so they're not too long, but we'll definitely be starting this one this weekend as well. And then I did want to share what I picked up at the library. I have some middle grade, I have a thriller here, so maybe one of these will make its way onto my reading pile this weekend as well. So I've checked this out before when it first came out, but I never got to it, and this is Alyssa Cole's thriller, When No One Is Watching. Alyssa Cole has predominantly, or is most well known for her romance writing, but she put out a thriller that sounds so good. She's exploring gentrification in this novel. Our main character lives in Brooklyn, and her neighborhood is changing around her. Her neighbors are going missing, and new people are moving in, and I think it's exploring like what is happening to these old neighbors. Are they okay? Is someone hurting them? The line on the back says, "Their neighbors may not have moved to the suburbs after all, and the push to revitalize the community may be more deadly than advertised. When does coincidence become conspiracy? Where do people go when gentrification pushes them out? Can Sydney and Theo trust each other or themselves long enough to find out before they too disappear?" It sounds really fresh and new, and obviously exploring a really important topic of gentrification, and so I'm just really excited to see her take on this topic. And as the weather warms up, I get kind of in the mood for some more like thrillery reading, so I'm excited to have this one, and hopefully I get to it before I have to take it back again like what happened last time. Okay, and then 2 middle grade that I'm really excited about. The first one is Other Words for Home by Jasmine Warga. This is a book written in verse. I think the cover is stunning. It is a Newbery Honor book. This book is about our main character, Jude, who moves to America from Syria. It's about her loss of family, her loss of home, and discovering like her place in America. It sounds beautiful and moving and timely, and a really quick read because it is written in verse. I keep hemming and hawing because I think I would really enjoy reading this on audiobook, but I also just like am really excited to read it, and it would take me very long to sit down and read it physically, so we'll see what happens with this one. But Krista over at Books and Jams, this was one of her favorite books from middle grade, March, if not her favorite this year, and so that's super high praise, and I'm really excited to read this one. Next, we have one that has also gotten a lot of praise, and I've read 2 books from this author that I loved, and that is Fighting Words by Kimberly Brubaker Bradley, and this is middle grade, all about I think 2 young girls who are abused and go into the foster care system and their experience with abuse in the system. If you didn't know, I work in the foster care system. I've been a case manager. I now license foster homes and relative providers. I really enjoy my job, but it can be hard just with all of the things you experience in the field, and then, you know, unimaginable for the kids going through it. But I loved how Kimberly Brubaker Bradley dealt with trauma in childhood and the experience of moving in with a caregiver that's not your parent. And those were themes in The War That Saved My Life and The War I Finally Won, obviously, but also was historical fiction and really looking at, you know, that during World War II. So this is contemporary to my understanding, and it's like focused on the foster care system, and I think that Kimberly Brubaker Bradley is going to do an amazing job. And I'm really picky about books that deal with adoption and foster care just because I work in the system, and so it's hard for me to suspend disbelief sometimes if things don't like match up with my experience. That's not to say that there aren't many experiences, but you know, I'm thinking more of like policies, procedures, kind of how that kind of system-y things work. So I'm really hoping that this is a hit because I would love to share it with my foster parents to read, to get some training hours. So I'm kind of reading this for my work to see if it's something that I can share with my families, but also just because I want to read it. So I'm so stoked to read this book. And if I don't get it done this weekend, I will definitely be finding some time to fit it in April or early May. Okay, and then last but certainly not least is one that will definitely be read with Judah, and that is William Wakes Up. This is by Linda Ashman, illustrated by Chuck Groenick. We have William's Winter Nap, which is one of my favorite picture books. I featured it in a picture book video that I did in December over Vlogmas, and someone had commented and was like, oh, you know, there's a springtime version, and I did not know that, and so I was so excited to find this. I haven't read it yet, but I loved William's Winter Nap and just the sweetness and the repetitiveness of it and the gorgeous illustrations. So I can only imagine that the springtime version will be just as gorgeous. So Judah and I will definitely be reading this weekend. All right, friends, I'd love to know what you're reading this weekend. I'd love to know if you've read any of these books and your thoughts, feelings, opinions, especially The Kindest Lie. I would love to chat with some people about that. I'd love to know if you had a different opinion than me, if you loved the book, if you just thought it was okay, if you didn't like it like I did. I'd love to chat about that book and really any of those books or whatever you're reading this weekend in the comments down below. I hope that you end up having a lovely weekend. It's set to be some beautiful spring weather here for us, and I can't be more, excited about that. So thanks so much for watching. I will talk to you later. Bye.